Right. Peace, peace. Lafia, love and light, peace and power. This is Baba Akindele, aka Brother Joshua. And I just want to give an overview of the Black Conscious Book Club Liberation Studies, Freeing the African Mind. This is a part of Bantu Global Healing Community, a new startup organization that is focusing on holistic health, liberation, wellness, and social emotional learning through storytelling and healing modalities. So let's get started. Emancipation begins with freeing our own minds. Marcus Garvey had this amazing quote: "We are going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery because whilst others may free the body, none but ourselves can free our mind, can free the mind." This is an incredibly important quote. Marcus Garvey was the father, really, of the Pan-Africanist movement globally. He was Jamaican that moved to the United States of America, and he would say these very, very powerful things. The Africa for the Africans, right? This dude even went and got cruise ships to sell Black people back to Africa, right? He had the largest Black movement in the United States, millions and millions. I'm talking about in the history of America, the largest Black movement, right? So the powerful thing here is he's saying none but ourselves can free the mind, that no one is going to come and save us, right? That we have to free ourselves from this mental slavery, right? The government can change policy, law around the Constitution, make amendments. Supreme Court can look at what the legislative branch has created. Executive branch can execute whatever the laws. But we must free our minds, because if we don't free the mind, the white supremacists, capitalists, and patriarchy will take us over, right? Will continue to take us over and lead us into paths of destruction, which is the path that we've already been walking, right? The path we've already been on, that we've been set on by the oppressor. So incredibly important point, right? Echoed by Bob Marley. Marcus Garvey. It's really Garveyism that gives the foundation to the Rastafarian movement. So that's where you get that Bob Marley connection, right? And then amazing Black Afrofuturistic writer, Octavia E. Butler. So be it, see to it. Octavia Butler was one of those people that freed her mind, right? Someone that the world would look at as like, what, huh? You can't write sci-fi. She wrote down in her journals that she would be an award-winning writer, that she would be a bestseller, that she would be this, and she accomplished everything that she did, right? That she set out to do, that she intended to do. So I love this quote from her. So be it, see to it. Even when you're outside the box, she wrote about things and wrote in ways that most Black people would say, well, that's not going to sell. I can't do that. I'm going to have to put my writing and my thoughts in some other form. No, she just did it, and sacrificed for it too, so big ups to the ancestors, Octavia E. Butler and Marcus Garvey. The machine system operates by swallowing us up completely. So the elders of Patrice Malidoma Somé made a powerful point when they sent him to the Western world. You see, Malidoma's name meant friend of the stranger, a friend of the enemy. His destiny, his sole purpose was to go out into what they call the machine world, right? We can say the Western world, we can say the technologically advanced world, we can say quote unquote civilization, right? He came from an indigenous, rural agricultural village in Burkina Faso. He's of the Dargara tribe. And His elders said, we have to send you out there. So understand that machine system before it consumes you completely. It's going to swallow you up, but don't allow it to swallow you completely. Don't let it come and separate and break up your soul and get you to forget who and what you are, right? So they said you must understand it before it swallows you. This is really important, understanding the machine system, right? Because we can see it's triple threat. Again, I'll say it, capitalism, white supremacy, and patriarchy. We don't want this to swallow our souls, separating us from the divine feminine, separating us from divine masculine, separating us from our ancestors, separating us from nature, right? Disconnecting us from ecology, separating us ultimately from ourselves, our true selves, our authentic selves, our souls, our destinies, our purpose, right? So for us to do that, we need to understand how the system of domination operates, okay, before we forget who we are. Liberation studies exist to help us remember, understand, heal, and rebuild, right? So if you look at these cycles here, this will help you to get some understanding how this system helps us to establish justice. First thing, understand the machine system. Map how the system operates. Analyze what the system has done to African people. Now, this is taking us back into really the books that we read, Millie Fuller, and the authors Millie Fuller and Marimba Ani, the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept right here, and also Let the Circle Be Unbroken, Marimba Ani right here, right? First one by Millie Fuller. To understand and analyze what the system has done to us. We have read those books already, so we'll get into that. The next step here is decolonize our minds, relationships, and institutions. Re-Africanize our lives, gain personal and collective sovereignty, and develop a Matian system of justice to replace systems of domination and injustice, right? Millie Fuller really took us there, explaining that we need to dismantle the system of white supremacy in order to implement a system of justice, right? We're not trying to implement a system of African supremacy, of Black supremacy, right? That would be replacing one unjust system with another unjust system. We're looking to replace it with a system of justice, something where it is balanced, something that all of humanity will benefit from. We must dismantle the imposed, while remember the ancestral, right? Decolonization and re-Africanization. First, decolonization. It helps us to recognize and remove the values, behaviors, and assumptions imposed upon us by the systems of domination. The orientation, outward, dismantling, view of the machine, right? The re-Africanization is the process of remembering, recovering, and consciously living according to African values. The orientation here is inward. It's building the spirit. Now, these two are incredibly important, right? Decolonization is just like detoxing the body. As a part of Bantu Global Healing Community, we do a lot of cleansing, fasting, sunfire foods, which you also may call raw vegan foods, right? Nutrition, minerals, remineralizing the system is like re-Africanization. Decolonization is like detoxification. Actually, that's what they are, right? The decolonization is, we have to get rid of all of the toxic waste in our minds and our spirits and in our bodies. Then we need to what? We need to then remineralize, renourish the body with the indigenous African spirit, the soul of who and what we are, right? And I recognize that there are Black people in America who identify with being indigenous. I understand that we are mixed people. I have native blood as well. I have European blood as well, right? As African ancestry. So understand that I'm being very specific when I say ReAfricanization, because there's a particular path that we're walking in Bantu. And so I want to be clear on what it is that we're doing so that we can have unity around what we're doing. But that is not to negate the fact that we have other ancestries. Ashe? Oh, another thing about ReAfricanization, right? What we see practiced in Africa now, largely by the populace, we have to understand is also due to colonization by multiple different groups, okay? And other people's cultures coming into Africa via trade as well, all right? So when I say ReAfricanization, this is also something that some of my African brothers and sisters are looking at how and what they need to do too, being colonized themselves. All of us have been attacked, right, around planet Earth by this energy, this spirit, these systems of oppression. So all of us collectively can work together on how to heal, all right? And again, we want to replace domination with balance, reciprocity, and justice. We want to love and be able to be loved authentically. We want to restore healthy relationships with one another. We want to reconnect to the spirit realm and live in harmony with nature. And one of the huge things is to fulfill our individual and collective destinies, right? It was given to us that we received from spirit, that we received in the spiritual realm before we came into the physical. Political knowledge without relational healing cannot produce a liberated community. And I will say this, right? Even the inverse of that, a relational healing without political knowledge cannot produce a liberated community. So we are looking at, right, having the extensive knowledge of the enemy. And who is the enemy? The enemy is who has attacked us and who continues to attack us. That is how you determine who an enemy is. What and who has attacked you, that is your enemy. You don't get to decide who your enemy is. Your enemy decided who they were when they attacked you. Okay, you understand? So we also have this other side of that, which is the relational healing and authentic love. If we don't have both in a Maatian balance, right, a harmony, then we're not going to be able to pull down this divine knowledge, pull up this wisdom from the ancestral realm, from our own experience, and then put it into something that is a liberation, a movement, and in a particular type of manifestation that we can see that's real, that's practical, that's meaningful. All right, you feel me? All right, if our liberation does not transform how we treat one another, then the system continues to live through us. Think about what happened when black people from America, right, the descendants of enslaved Africans, went to Liberia. What they did was they imposed another oppressive system onto the Africans. Why did the enslaved African Americans do that to the Africans? Because they had been inputted, what was input into them was the asili, the seed of white supremacy, patriarchy, capitalism, oppression, dehumanization. So they just practiced what they had been taught, right? They had practiced it. So that's why all of this is so important, right? In the spirit of balance, healing, and deep African spiritual science, we will study relationships before moving into the ISIS papers and Urugu. Yo, ISIS papers and Urugu, serious black literature, yo. So like serious, it's heavy, right? So we're gonna be talking about relationships, and then we moving into that heavy stuff. Then we moving back into the relationships. And I'm not saying that the relationship stuff isn't heavy as well. It's just heavy in two different wavelengths, right? All right, cool, cool, cool. Let's move forward. And too, when we think about liberation, what are we liberating ourselves into? After liberation, where do we live now? Right? We must create the society that we want to live in. We must create the society that we will be reincarnated into. Ashe? Through our children. So our next phase examines the deep mechanisms of our relationship and the community, relationships between black men and black women, internalized oppression, communication and conflict, love and intimacy and vulnerability, the relationship between personal healing and collective liberation, accountability, community healing, and African-centered approaches to partnership. How can we create a liberated African future if we have not learned how to relate to, understand, and authentically love one another? That's the question I'm posing. And I'm saying it's not going to happen. All right. After the civil rights movement, many of those marriages ended in divorce. Right? And in divorce. Why? Is it because the women's liberation movement and women just said, hey, I don't have to be tied to this man anymore economically? Was that it? Was it because abuse was going on? Like what was happening? Why could the marriages not survive? And I was talking to some civil rights leaders and they were saying that like it was so intense what they had gone through that on the other side of it was just like this exhale, but they had been working and been warring so much, they hadn't built, the marriages, the family wasn't solid and built, right? And if that's not built strong, and I'm not saying that like we can't move forward if people are divorcing each other, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying like is that we do need to be able to work and function in partnerships. We do. We need to figure out how to do that. And I think that was a sign of that energy, that there has to be specific and intentional energy that's focused upon the marriages, the family units, however they look, right? Because there's a lot of family units that are not of married people, but they need to be able to be functional, right? And the community units, the units of support. We have to figure this out of how we keep these things together as we move through these phases. So our curriculum ascends from the systemic foundations to spiritual science, right? Number one, again, we already read the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept textbook by Nellie Fuller Jr. Then we read Let the Circle Be Unbroken by Marimba Ani, right? Originally, we started in the ISIS papers, but we stopped, okay? And we're going to return back, but first we're going to, and the first two are the foundation, understanding of the system. The next we get into the ascension, right? Relational healing and spiritual science. So we're now going into the Black Man's Guide for Understanding the Black Woman by Mama Shahrazad Ali, and then the Black Woman's Guide to Understand the Black Man, again by Shahrazad Ali. Practical, right to it advice and a framework from us to discuss and work from about how we relate to each other. Then we're moving into the ISIS papers, right? And let me say something too, because some people may be like, well, like, I'm not in a relationship. I don't want to get into a relationship. Why I need to learn about that? Like, I'm in women's circles, men and men's circles, people from, whatever, the LGBTQ community, maybe like, well, I don't really need to understand this. Do you have sons? Do you have daughters? Do you have nieces? Do you have nephews? Do you have a mama? Do you got a daddy? Do you got brothers? Do you got sisters? You got friends, right? Us understanding each other is not just us understanding each other in our romantic relationships. Us understanding each other is also us just understanding each other as men and as women, right? And we can discuss too. We can say gender's on a spectrum, all these things. Let's discuss it. Let's bring it into discussion. Let's not be afraid to deal with the realities that we are dealing with in our lives, right? So that's a huge part of what we're doing is we want to be authentic, we want to be genuine, we want to be genuine to who and what we are and what we're dealing with, right? So that's why I'm coming at it straight up, right, with these two books. Next, we're gonna dive back in to the ISIS papers. We're gonna break down some more understanding of the system from a psychological point of view. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, right? Mama Cress, she's bringing it. Mama Frances is bringing it in the ISIS papers, right? Like Marimba Ani, really, Marimba Nilly Fuller was like a mentor to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, right? His work influenced her. Her work influenced Marimba Ani. You know what I'm saying? Shraza Ali, you know, she's a student, she's a member of Nation of Islam. So she's coming out of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, right? And then our next writer, Sambufu Some, she is an indigenous Dargara woman, a tribe that's in Burkina Faso. And she wrote, is a phenomenal writer, phenomenal woman teacher who wrote The Spirit of Intimacy, one of the best books I have ever read. It goes deep into relationships, all different types of relationships, and the spiritual aspect behind them. This is a must read. If you don't read anything on this list, read The Spirit of Intimacy. All right. So we're going to get into that 6. Next, one of the deepest dives we're going to do. When I say deep, I really should say thick, right? Because the ISIS papers all of these are deep dives, to be honest with you. But the ISIS paper, Spirit of Intimacy, it's really deep spiritual dive. But just Urugu is like thick, like it's thick. It's literally thick, like Spirit of Intimacy is a little book. Urugu is like this big book. Let me show you. This is Urugu, the Spirit of Intimacy. I hope y'all can see that. See the difference, right? Both of them deep dives, right? This is this is just thicker, right? Than this one. But we're gonna dive into that. Everybody said you're gonna do the whole thing. We'll see, right? Right now, yeah, in my mind, yeah, it may take us 6 months. May take us longer, may take us shorter, but let's do it. Right? We need to know this information. So let's do it. All right. And Urugu is an African-centered critique of European cultural thought and behavior. Marimba Ani is an anthropologist. All right. So that's where, so she's studied white people. And she's written this book on the African science explaining not just who they are, but the energy behind what we have seen in what we call white supremacy. And I will say this, and Nilly Fuller talks about this in the United Independent Compensatory Code, that all white people are not white supremacists, okay? And so this is not to demonize anybody, but this is for us to deal with honestly and authentically and really and realistically what it is that we're dealing with. And we're dealing with a world where Black people, African people are at the bottom and treated badly everywhere. Everywhere. We need to find out why, right? So this is an attempt at doing that, right? So that's Urugu. And then we are finishing with All About Love by the wonderful Bell Hooks, all right? I loved her book, We Real Cool, where she talked about Black men, Black masculinity. It's from a feminist. It was a hug from a feminist, yo. And it's like, because a lot of times I don't really feel like feminists really rocking with the brothers. But Bell Hooks, it's like she put her arms around me and was like, baby, we got some tough things to talk about. But I love you, brother. I'm gonna say this in love to you, you know what I mean? And I'm like, yo, I can, thank you, Sister Hooks. Thank you, mama. Mama Bell, you know, because the brothers be needing you know what I'm saying? We be needing an arm around us sometime, yo, like a lot of time, you know, like, yeah, there's some tough things for us to hear, but it's just, I appreciate the sister. So she came with the grace, you know, and one of the things you will notice on this list is there's only one male author, right? Neely Fuller really comes in with the compensatory code. He's the grandfather energy of this whole joint. He's bringing us the masculine, the practical, the straight up. Hey, yo, hear what it is. He's not super emotional. He's not really talking about. He's a bit spiritual. Nah, like you, kind of surprising actually. How spiritually is, but he's just really to the point, right? The sisters, they bring like the depths, and so as we're really battling patriarchy, right? And let me give a definition of patriarchy here. When I say patriarchy, I'm not talking about some good system of male leadership. I am talking about an oppressive system where males dominate females. That's what I'm talking about. Where men dominate women unjustly, violently, okay, brutally. That is the reality. And so as we're facing that, we want to hear from the sisters. The sisters have some things to share, but that's not saying the brothers don't too, right? I'm a brother, right? I'm one leading the group. Neely Fuller started us off. The grandfather's giving us the grandfather energy. He giving us the go ahead. He the one who helped empower the sisters to write many of these books. Written by Dr. Francis Cress Wells, right? So this is the brothers and the sisters coming together, yo. The sacred science, right? All right. Our meeting mission begins Sunday, August 30th, kickoff session at 11 a.m., right? We already had that yesterday. We, reviewed what we already studied, went through some deep stuff. You can look at that. I'm going to upload that to YouTube. That's on Facebook. Facebook going to keep it for 30 days, so I'll upload it to YouTube. And required by August 30th, you need to read all the introduction material, the preface, the introduction, read chapter. Here it says read chapter 1. Yo, read chapter 1 and chapter 2, okay? Read chapter 1 and chapter 2. In the meeting yesterday, I said we're going to read the first 2 chapters. I almost wish I said read the first 3 because I want to finish the book a little bit quicker than what I initially said, because we have a lot of different books to get through. But I do want to take our time with the content. So we're going to start with 2 chapters for the first one, for the first meeting. All right. So notice on the screen, chapter 1, read chapter 1 and chapter 2. All right. All right. Now, that's whirlwind, right? But I want to really, end our meeting with Emperor Haile Selassie first, Rastafari, Emperor of Ethiopia. A call for global African liberation. That until the philosophy which holds one race superior and another inferior is finally and permanently discredited and abandoned, and until there are no longer first class and second class citizens of any nation, that until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes, that until the basic human rights are equally guaranteed to all without regard to race, that until that day, the dream of lasting peace and world citizenship and the rule of international will remain but a fleeting illusion to be pursued but never attained. Let me say that again. That until the day the dream of lasting peace and world citizenship and the rule of internationality will remain but a fleeting illusion to be pursued but never attained. And until the ignoble and unhappy regimes that hold our brothers in Angola, in Mozambique, and in South Africa in subhuman bondage have been toppled and destroyed, until bigotry and prejudice and malice and inhumane self-interest have been replaced by understanding and tolerance and goodwill. And until all Africans stand and speak as free beings, equal in the eyes of all men, as they are in the eyes of heaven. And until that day, the African continent will not know peace. We Africans will fight if necessary. And we know that we shall win, as we are confident in the victory of good over evil. And let me add, the Congo, let me add, Burkina Faso and Niger and Mali. Let me add the Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Let me add all the African brothers and sisters that are in South Africa. Let me add Liberia. Let me add Eritrea and Ethiopia. Let me add any place in Africa right now that is going through duress and distress. Right? We will be confident in our victory. And as much as we are confident in the victory of good over evil. This is Emperor Haile Selassie spitting that real truth, immortalized in the lyrics of Bob Marley in the song War. And Bob said, until this happens, there's going to be war. War in the East, war in the West, war up north, and war down south. War, rumors of war, war. And we see the world is warring now. We're at war. We've been warred against. We've been taken as prisoners of war. Many of our brothers, beloved brothers and sisters, have been casualties of war. Nelly Fuller explained how there's different levels of imprisonment within this system. And that the prison industrial complex, that what we call prison, is just a heightened level of a type of imprisonment we're in right now. War. My sister Janelle, she said, Mama Janelle, she said to me yesterday, we talked after the meeting, she said, for her, she connects better instead of the idea of war, she connects better with the idea of predator. And that when a predator is on the prowl, you have to recognize that there's a danger, and how are you going to live with that predator, right? How are you going to deal with that predator? Because the predator is key to the ecological system, right? So how are we going to deal with each other? Because for some reason, all of us are here sharing this planet together. How are we going to deal with each other, right? And come into an internationality. And first, right, we have to find this is us. All Africans stand and speak as free beings, equal in the eyes of all men, eyes of heaven, right? We have to heal. We have to heal. Us healing is a part of this world healing. This world can't heal without us healing, right? The rest of the world have to heal as well. Right? It's important. All right. Reflection is required to integrate our learning into our living. So this is in self, this is in partnership, this is in community, this is in action. What will we commit to studying, practicing, and changing during this series? In what ways has the machine system shaped how we see ourselves? What must we personally heal to contribute to collective liberation, community? How can we consider ourselves liberated if we reproduce domination? What does authentic love look like within an African-centered community? What values should define a ReAfricanized relationship? What must Black men and Black women understand about one another? Right? Questions we must ask ourselves. So now, so be it, see to it. Liberation is not only the ability to identify the system. Liberation requires us to free our minds, heal our relationships, recover our African consciousness, and build a new way of living together. free the mind, heal the relationships, restore the culture, build the future. Let's do it, y'all. Get the books, read introductory material, chapter 1 and 2. Come prepared to listen, question, reflect, and grow next week, Sunday, 11 o'clock Eastern time via Zoom. Just hit me up at Brother Joshua on IG or platforms, right? Or you could comment on any of the platforms, and I'll get back at you with a Zoom link, all right? Peace and blessings, love and light. Remember to love yourself unconditionally and love each other, right? And you can introduce some people, right? Invite some people to the meeting. Invite some people to come to read with us, you know? Let's do this in community, y'all. All right, y'all. Peace, love, and light. All right? Mundo pues.